Every system has its gatekeepers. Every empire has its translators, and white supremacy has its favorites. So we're going to talk about a word a lot of people are scared to unpack: bedwench. Trigger warning, because a bedwench can be a male or a female, but in most regards is usually a female.
Women.
Not just the insult of being called a bedwench, not just the meme or even the position.
I'm done.
Because in every era, from the slave quarters to the suburbs, there have been Black women strategically chosen, rewarded, or grown to protect the comfort of white people, even when that comfort comes at the expense of their own people. This isn't about shaming interracial love. This is about alignment, who you serve when the line is drawn. So we're going to talk about what is a bedwench, how does he or she move, and while foundational Black Americans and some African Caribbeans can play that role, while pretending they're above the same anti-Black system that feeds on the walls, like a Candace Owens. You may hear that term a lot tonight for an example, not to denigrate her, but just for an example, because the term bedwench comes out of slavery. Historically, it refers to enslaved Black women forced into sexual relationship with white slave owners. Now, let's be clear. There was no romance in that, no swirl goals. That was rape backed by law, property codes, and the whip. Those women and our women today are victims of a system that turned their bodies into utilities. The only difference is today is that they're complicit.
I choose violence.
Now, this was for sex, for breeding, for status symbols, for other white men. Over time, though, the word morphed. In our era, in modern day era, people use bedwench often in a misogynistic way to describe Black women who publicly minimize or deny white supremacy, defend white or non-FBA partners against obvious racist behavior, and side with anti-Black policies or talking points against their own community, like a Candace Owens. So I want to separate those two things. The historical victims, enslaved women who had no choice. The modern role, people, usually women, who choose to protect white power's feeling over Black people's survival. That role. That's what I'm talking about. And you see it everywhere, from the news desk to YouTube panels to City Hall. A Black woman gets handed a mic and a check, and suddenly police brutality is overblown. Systematic racism is exaggerated, and foundational Black Americans are just making excuses.
It's been a waste of time for me, folks. I'll be honest with you.
See, when you have an example like a Candace Owens that goes to PragerU, Heritage Foundation, Turning Point USA, and all of them cast her out once they're done using her, how do a bedwench get back on board and start making the bag again? Out of tragedy comes fame. And the tragedy, unfortunately, was Charlie Kirk's, as people are quoting, assassination, but the fame that she now has the #1 podcast over Joe Rogan. And again, I'm not trying to denigrate our sister, but I'm just using her as a really, really good example. And I've been telling you guys about the book, Black Skin, White Mask, written by Frantz Fanon. And he talked about how colonized people sometimes adopt the mentality of their colonizer and weaponize it against their own, making the mistake of proximity to power for power itself. That is not the case. Let's talk about the two main types you see in modern American politics. The two types of bedwenches. You have your FBA bedwench, the not all white people's defense attorney. That is the sister who is foundational Black American by blood, but not by loyalty. Why is that? Because the reason why I have to give disclaimer on this channel, because some people are very, very feeble-minded. Not all of you guys. A lot of you guys who watch me are very intelligent, but a lot of people are feeble-minded. So if I don't say not all white people, not all Black women, not all Asian, not all Hispanic, I got to say it because people are like, well, you saying all.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
Listen, when people are public speaking, whether it be in public or on social media, if they don't say all, don't just automatically assume all. That's very, in my opinion, very, very feeble-minded. But unfortunately, we have a lot of FBA bedwenches. who are foundational Black Americans by blood, but not by their loyalty.
What an idiot.
So when police kill an unarmed Black person, she's on cable news saying, well, we don't know all the facts. When a politician says something blatantly racist, she's like, well, he's not racist. He just tells it like it is. Her job is to de-racialize the obviously racial, to sanitize white violence into misunderstanding, isolated incidents, or economic anxiety. She'll talk about Black on Black crime on cue, like a Candace Owens. She'll drag FBA activists as race hustlers or grifters. She'll be more passionate defending a white politician reputation than defending a Black child's life. And often, but not always, but often there's a white or non-Black partner standing right next to her, like a Kamala Harris, no less.
That is so gross.
Like a JD Vance, no less. See, JD Vance never really came out publicly talking how his right-wing conservatives were sending hate messages to his Indian wife. I digress. Now, again, the problem is not swirling or who you fall in love with. I'm not on my Dr. Umont's podium. I'm not talking about bunny hopping or chasing cake, so to speak. The problem is when your politics start sounding like your partner's excuses more than your people's experiences. That is the problem. The immigrant bedwench, though, and again, I'm not like those Black ambassadors, some of the things they may say. The second model is the African or Caribbean immigrant. They're usually middle class, who uses their identity to lecture to FBAs. We came here with $2 and a dream. You people are lazy. That's some of the discouraging terms they may use. You all complain too much. Just work hard and stop blaming racism. You hear it in the transcript. The Jamaican bragging about how many or one people while craving white acceptance. You hear in all these different media transcripts in rooms and Clubhouse and YouTube and TikTok, you hear it. You'll hear a caller state, you should be scared of ICE too, talking to foundational Black Americans as if FBAs are just another immigrant group with no constitutional right. The ones who marked FBA for demanding reparation while their own CARICOM reparation process has been stalled and symbolic for years. We're talking about the Korean community in regards to CARICOM. They'll run this line. We are all the same Black people until it's time to share credit.
Would like to join our team.
And when it's time to share resources or when it's time to share struggle, then suddenly is, I'm Jamaican, I'm not Black. I'm Nigerian, I'm not African American. I'm different. I'm better.
Bullshit.
See, these are some of the things that a lot of these people from the Caribbean, as well as the African continent state.
That call was perfect.
Now, Jamaica's national motto is literally out of many, one people, a slogan designed in the colonial period to fold Black Jamaicans into a multi-racial nation project while the tourism economy stayed in the hands of a mostly white and lighter skinned elite. You know, and I know, I've been in Jamaica. I know a lot of you guys have been in Jamaica. All those resorts are not owned by Jamaicans. They're owned by white people, usually from Europe and America. See, when we look at the office of the Prime Minister of Jamaica, CARICOM set up a reparations commission with a 10-point plan for slavery and native genocide. But most of it's still stuck at the talking stage. While FBA in the US, they always ask me, what are you doing? What are you guys are doing? I don't see nothing moving on your behalf. Well, we have active bills. We have research committees and we have city level initiatives on the table. I mean, we pretty close in some regards, especially those Californians. And there have been reports on a small scale, no less, of some Black people actually receiving reparations.
You're not wrong.
So again, you start small, you end up big. That's just the way it goes. Facebook, when you guys go in there and say all the rhetoric and things, because that's where a lot of old Black people go, no matter what race, I mean, what ethnic group. They go on Facebook, TikTok too fast for them. But when I look at this, and better yet, some of these immigrant bedwenches types fight FBA reparations harder than white conservatives do. Have you noticed that? It be Black Bedwenches who speak more staunchly and more strict and more anti-Black against reparation than regular white male conservatives do. So I have to ask, are you pro-Black or you're just pro your immigration status?
Who are you?
Again, we're on those Caribbean African tether bedwenches. So I think it's only important for us to strip it all down. A bedwench in the political sense that I'm using here has three main functions: softening the image of white supremacy. She makes racist people and policies feel less racist. He didn't mean it that way, or don't call it systematic racism. It's just bad choices. America's not racist. You just need to work harder. Attack FBA lineage. They attack our identity and demands. When we delineate as foundational Black Americans, they scream division. When we demand reparations, she calls it begging. That's why I always get on my timeline. Every time I bring up reparation, are you begging? Once you go out and work for it, you want people who didn't commit these crimes against your people to pay you. You wasn't even enslaved. We get all the arguments, we get all the excuses, we get all the hate.
Yeah.
When we defend our culture, she calls it ghetto or toxic or too sensitive.
You are a rude, terrible person.
Offer herself as the good Black, she sells herself to white institutions as proof that, see, not all Black people are complaining. Some of them know their place. Some of us know our place. See, in psychology and post-colonial studies, this is called identification with the aggressor, where the oppressed person tries to find safety by aligning with the oppressor's worldview. Now, as I told you, Black Skin, White Mask, Fannin Francis' book, he wrote about this. And so did later Black feminist scholars like Bell Hooks, who dissected how patriarchy and white supremacy recruit Black women as enforcers in exchange for a bit of status. That whole term, big mama, or they had the women of plantation controlling men to a certain degree.
Aren't you excited, gang?
This is where they're getting a lot of these strategy and psychological manipulation when it comes to bedwenches with white men, or even, as I say, that some bedwenches are Black men with white women, okay, or non-Black women, or even non-FBA. Because this is how we get this apologetic status of how some people are very apologetic for white people or non-FBA people. But here's a twist. The safety is temporary. The disrespect is actually absolutely permanent, because we're not going to forget. Look at the public landscape. You got women, FBA and Immigrant, frontlining for tough on crime policies that's over Black neighborhoods and under police white collar crime, anti-reparation talking points, even while their own families benefit from FHA loans, GI Bill access, or immigrating to a country FBA's already fought to death to desegregate. Immigration narratives where they say, we earned this, not like those lazy Black Americans while standing on civil rights laws that FBA's bled for. Historically, this is not new, because we understand that empirical powers always use select natives and clergy and interpreters, house slaves, to manage the rest of the population. House slaves today are just bedwenches, in my opinion. In the Caribbean and Africa, colonial administrators heavily relied on local elites to enforce British, French, Portuguese rule in exchange for land and light-skin privilege. We're watching the modern version today right before our eyes. A media outlet, they will hire a Black woman to go on air and laugh at reparations. A think tank promotes an immigrant Black woman to write op-eds about how racism is overstated, that America is not a racist country, that America wasn't built on racism and discrimination, which we know is a big, fat lie. A white politician drags out their Black wife. Wait a minute, is Ketanji Brown, is her husband white? Interesting. Kamala Harris, is her husband white? Interesting. Is Clarence Thomas' wife white? I'm just trying to figure out what's the similarities in all of this? Because this is what they do. They bring out their Black or white, depending on the race, their girlfriend or husband or wife or boyfriend, or even surrogate to vouch that their policies aren't racist. They're just misunderstood. The face is black, but the script is white. The target is us. And we know this. Kind of reminds me of Candace Owens. Who is she married to? Oh, white guy. I wonder why she speaks the way she speaks. I wonder why her and Kanye West put on that shirt that white lives matter. Again, I'm just kind of recalling some things that I may not yet understand. So don't beat me up in the comment section. I can be very ignorant on a lot of things. But one thing I'm quite sure, let me dead a lazy argument right now.
Well, this is going to hurt like a mother.
Because this is not about saying black women can't date or marry non-black. This is not about saying black men can't date or marry non-black. The Supreme Court struck down bans on interracial marriage in 1967, and since then, interracial unions have grown. In 2015, about 17% of all newlyweds married someone of another race. For black spouses, interracial marriage has gone from 5% in 1980 to about 18% in 2015. So yeah, interracial relationships exist. They're legal, they're common, they're here. I don't care about them really. The question isn't who you're in bed with. The question is, who are you caping for when the system is on trial? Now, unfortunately, a lot of times who you are in bed with really does have a direct correlation and link to the way that a lot of you think.
What do you mean by that?
So if your white husband says wild stuff about those people and you should rush to defend him instead of defending reality, you're in Bedwench territory. If your white husband or your white wife wants you to cosplay and play out slave sexual acts in the bedroom,
does that sound like something you want?
Yes.
Then let me tell you, you in Bedwench territory, okay? That's just what it is. If you're a non-FBA partner, because as I told you, Bedwenches, they're translucent throughout many levels, okay? If your non-FBA partner talks about reckless, about FBA being lazy and violent and uncultured, like we don't have a culture, okay, if you're in bed with a sister from the Caribbean, if you're in bed with a brother from Africa, and you sit there nodding like a dashboard bobblehead, you're helping maintain a system that sees all of us as expandable. And I don't mean grow, I mean expendable.
Are you crazy?
Because when this country decides to tighten on the screws, it doesn't stop to ask if your grandmother is from Alabama or Kingston or Lagos. It sees melanin and moves accordingly. Now, why is this role so important to the whites, to the system of white supremacy? Why is it so important to the system? It's because white supremacy needs black validators. It needs the Hodge twins. It needs your Officer Tatums. It needs your Candace Owens. It needs these type of people to uphold the system. It needs validators. It needs your Dinesh D'Souza. It needs your Vivek Ramaswamy. It needs all of these people because the plantation owner needed a house slave to deliver the message. The colonial governor needed a local interpreter to legitimize the treaty. It needed a Nat Turner to teach the gospel to keep slaves enslaved until they revolted and killed a bunch of white people. This is why they need it.
I want nothing.
The modern corporation needs a black woman and sometimes man on the DEI brochure while it quietly funds politicians attacking voter rights. See, research on propaganda and social control shows that messages are more persuasive when delivered by someone who looks like you. And I always refer to this example when I went to Ghana and I went to the Cape Coast and that whole slave castle. They stated that they took 2 Ghanaians because at one point in time, the religion of Ghanaians at the time were the African ancestral spirits that they prayed to really good people who was well known, by the way. They was really good people, did a lot for their country, so to speak, in their tribes. They used to pray to African ancestral spirits. But while being colonized, they grabbed 2 Ghanaians, sent them over to Great Britain, fed them a bunch of propaganda, manipulation, and brainwashing, and then sought to have people to convert to Christianity once they came back. See, again, messages are more persuasive when delivered by someone who looks like you. That's very interesting, isn't that? Makes you think about Christianity and how foundational Black Americans became Christians. Was it in Africa? Was it in America? Was it during slavery? I digress. That's a question for you guys. But here's another propaganda and how social control really shows. Internalized racism and colorism to make sure some of us more likely to trust harsh words from a black face, like a Roland Martin, than a white one. And the elites understand this. The elites understand this. So you'll see a black woman on a panel arguing against police reform, a black immigrant on a podcast mocking FBA demanding for reparation, while their own governments petition Europe for slavery reparations too. A black spouse front and center when a white politician needs cover from a racist scandal, like a Candace Owens. They're the human shield. She's still caping for Charlie Kirk, even though we have all this racialized, discriminatory, very bigoted things that Charlie Kirk said about Black Americans. But don't forget, her background is from the Caribbean.
Huh? What?
So I digress. But I'm just using her as an example because we understand that they are human shields, a buffer between white guilt and black rage. And as long as that buffer holds, the system rolls on. So let's be very precise. We're not putting a permanent label on every black woman or every black man that's in an interracial relationship. No, we're calling out behavior. We add certain things like, do they dismiss or mock FBA lineage and identity? Always saying stop all that division, but never telling white power to stop exportation or stop their hatred and racism and killing of unarmed black people. Do they defend white feelings more than black survival? More upset about the word racist than about racist outcomes? Do they attack FBA demands, reparations, anti-police terror policies, housing justice, while offering zero alternative except respectability and just work hard? Do they echo conservative, anti-black talking points using their blackness or immigrant status as their shield? And the same for the liberals. Do they do the same in a liberal but less racist way? They all act the same. They just may do it quite differently.
You seen one, you seen them all.
If the answer keeps coming back, yes, that's bedwench behavior. You can be FBA and do it. You can be Jamaican and do it. You can be Nigerian, Trinidadian, British African and do it. It's not in your DNA. It's in your decision. We got to make a clear distinction. Foundational Black Americans in a very specific political movement. We're delineating our lineage. We're tightening up our claim for reparation. We're gatekeeping our culture from hip hop to R&B to all the inventions that we help modernize the world with, to civil rights, legacy against being erased, rebranded, or even stolen. And that's exactly when you see an uptick you see all these different upticks in immigrant voices saying we built this country right after visas and civil rights made it possible for them to even be here. The country was already built before immigrants even got here. See, foundational Black Americans are not immigrants. And when you say you are immigrant, what did you immigrate to? You had to immigrate to something in order for you to immigrate. See, a country had to already be established for you to immigrate to, because if you wasn't an immigrant or you was part of the foundation, like foundational Black Americans, then you wouldn't be an immigrant. You'll be part of the foundation that built the country. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know it makes sense to me. I'm just saying, but no less, Black women, immigrant or FBA, on platforms saying that FBA shouldn't get reparations or that all Black people globally should share it. Folks trying to lump us back into a vague, abstract Black or African or one big Negro category, so our specific claims get diluted and redistributed. Family, that's not unity. That's appropriation. So yes, we have to be very, very blunt. We have to call out the role, the collaboration, the caping, putting on the mask for people, because if we don't guard our lineage, no one else will. At the end of the day, this isn't about policing who you love. It's about what you defend. If you're Black, FBA, African, Caribbean, if you find yourself fighting harder for white comfort than Black justice, if you're more outraged by being called a bedwench than you are by actually white supremacy. Let me say it again. If you're more outraged by being called a bedwench, a bunny hopper, as Dr. Umar Johnson would say, then you are by actually white supremacy. I don't know how you can be outraged from it. Then you are by actual white supremacy. I'll say it that way, broken English style. And I guess another take is that you might need to check what side of history you're standing on. Because we don't hate you, no.
No way, no.
That's too much energy. We hate the position you've accepted consciously or not. Because some people may not be woke. We don't need any more translators for our pain. We don't need you guys. We don't need any more co-signers for our oppression. No, we don't need you guys. What we need are riders. We need people who understand this, that FBA lineage is not a costume. It's a contract written in blood. Our ancestors didn't survive the Middle Passage or slavery or Jim Crow or COINTELPRO, redlining and mass incarceration, just so that they descendants could be PR agents for the same system they tried to erase them. This is where we strip away the performance, where we expose the collaboration between all of these groups. And these things have to be constantly exposed because new strategies are always on the horizon. We need to stand on lineage. And Bedwench Politics has had its session. Bedwench Politics has had its season. But now that season is over.
Is dead.